bottom 7 as far as baseball is concerned in 2018. He gave you the top 7, the Super 7, the Magnificent 7. Take your pick. With the Indians, number 7, I put the Dodgers 6, Cubs 5, Red Sox 4. Yankees have to deal with them. That's why I put the Red Sox below the Nationals, who are 3. Yankees are 2, and the Astros are 1. I think it's a little trickier with the 7 bad teams because you got a couple of teams who normally would be in this mix that I think are not because of what they've done lately. Hosmer with San Diego, you normally would throw them in. Well, you can't because, I don't think the Padres are the the 7th or in the bottom 7 in the sport, one-loss record-wise. I think there's worse teams than San Diego, and I think the Orioles are the other one. I don't know after Cobb that you could put the Orioles here in the bottom 7. I know their pitching isn't great, but they got a good manager. You're going to make the Orioles in the top 7. I know their pitching is their pitching. I get that, but I'm not too sure if I'm going to put the Orioles in there. So if I do the 7 worst teams in the sport, it's a little tricky. I am going to put, I'll go from 24 to 30, all right? I'll do it that way. I will put number 24. I will put the White Sox at number 24. I think the White Sox, you heard Rogers a little while ago. They are young. James Shields is their ace. That's a problem. They did give up a lot of guys in that bullpen from a year ago. That's a problem. But they got a young lineup. They got lots of young players. They got young legs. They're not going to be. This is not an older team. It's a younger team. Something to prove. They should be hungry all year long. I think the White Sox are going to be a little better than people think. So I will put the White Sox at number 24. 71, by the way, is their over-under number. I'll put them there. I'll put the Tigers at 25. I won't go any lower than that with Detroit because any team that can start the day with Cabrera and Victor Martinez, I know he's 39, but he can still hit. And then Zimmerman and Michael Fulmer, that isn't that bad. So Cabrera alone, and I guess he had a very good spring. He's in better shape. Cabrera's, sort of the... he used to be the Albert Pujols of the American League. Obviously Albert's now in the American League, but he's been the closest thing to Pujols when he was a Cardinal in the junior circuit. And I think with him and Martinez, Fulmer, Castellanos is not a bad little player. I would think the catcher's got some spunk. I would think Gardenhire is a steady ship. I would think the Tigers not good in a bad division too. So they may not have as many losses as some of these other teams because of the division they play in. Listen, the Yankees and the Red Sox are not in the American League Central. So I'll make the Tigers team number 25. I'm going to make the Braves as team number 26, and I would put them a little lower, although everybody tells me that the second baseman and Acuna, who we're not going to see in the middle of April, the guy they sent down for service time, are going to be great, great players. But, the Braves are sort of an in-between team. The Markakises of the world, the Suzukis of the world, the sort of veteran guy, and then they got a lot of the young player that you don't know that much about who supposedly is going to be, big time. They got a great farm system, sort of like the White Sox farm system, even though they lost all those players in the off year with the issues with their GM signing some players illegally, and then they were declared free agents. The Braves lost 13 players there, but they have plenty left, and a lot of people think the Braves down the road are going to be a big-time team. Lots of pitching, too. Tehran, of course, will anchor the rotation, but, they got to deal with the Nationals and the Mets, so be better. So I'll put the Braves, for the heck of it. I like to put them even a little lower, but I'll put them at team number 26. I will put, boy, I tell you, you could go either way you want to go here. You got 4 to go. I'll put the Reds next. I think the Reds, they do have Votto. They do have a decent offense. They signed a shortstop. Homer Bailey is healthier. They have a good closer. They play the Pirates a million times. But the Reds, can you sit there and pick the Reds any higher than, being in the bottom 7? I don't know how you do that. I really don't. Last year they lost in the mid-90s. Their bullpen is horrendous. Their bullpen last year was well over 5. They don't have great starting pitching. I like the manager, but who knows? He doesn't, light a fire under anybody either. The ballpark is a major problem to develop a big staff. That ballpark is underrated offensively. It's not underrated offensively, but it's very difficult to build a big park in that, a good pitching staff in that small little park. I don't know if there's any big pitchers in the farm system. I don't read about the Reds having this farm system that's ready to click like you do with the White Sox in Atlanta, and teams like that. So I think the Reds, I'll put them, down near the lowest emblem here, and I'll put them at 27. I'll put the Royals at 28. I think the Royals are sort of an in-between team, too. Bringing Moustakas back, I don't know what that accomplished. They lose Kane, they lose Hosmer. Last year, they barely won 80 games. They lose two of their big players there. They don't have big pitching. Danny Duffy, all right, not bad, but, it's Ian Kennedy and guys like that. It's a quick drop. They didn't have the depth. They used all their farm system to win a championship. So, there's not a lot left there right now. They didn't get the high picks when they won the titles. Herrera is the only guy left in that bullpen after they lost Davis. Holland's not coming back anytime soon. I don't like the Kansas City team at all. Their over-under number is way down. I can look at it right now. The Kansas City over-under number, if I'm not mistaken, is in the high 60s. Let's just clarify and tell you what exactly it is so I don't give you the wrong number. The Reds, by the way, were 73.5. The Royals are 69.5. That's all you need to know. I think the Royals are going to have a long, long year. And then I'm going to put the two Florida teams next. And I'm going to start with the Rays. I think the Rays stink. I think the Rays, right now there's not a lot of hope for a ballpark. They traded Longoria. They traded Souza. They cut Corey Dickerson. That's a lot of their offense from a year ago. They still got Chris Archer sitting there. They do have a couple of pitchers who might be pretty good. Colomé, the closer's there. They usually play feisty. They don't quit. But, boy, I tell you, the manager's okay. And I like the ownership, but I don't like this team. I think they stink. They also got to play the Yankees and the Red Sox, basically 38 times. That's a major problem. Their ballpark is overrun by Yankee and Red Sox fans. I think Tampa right now has got a lot of issues. The Marlins don't have as many issues as the Rays do because the Marlins have a stadium and the Rays do not. I think that is a major issue for Tampa. I know the Marlins lost a ton of money last year, and they had a fire sale in the wintertime with Jeter, and that's a terrible sports town. We get that, but they do have a stadium. Tampa doesn't even have that. And I think the team is awful. I think there's a black cloud around the franchise. I think they're very annoyed about what they did in the offseason, trading all these players. They had two pitchers go down with Tommy John. I think Tampa 29 is a fair place to put them. And you got to put the Marlins at 30. Last year they won 77 games, and that was with Stanton, the MVP. That was with Yelich. That was with Ozuna. All three guys are gone. How can you expect Miami? Now, they might be feisty. You heard Mattingly on the other day. It sounds like they're going to be competitive. He's a good manager with the younger player. They have a couple of pitchers. Brinson, they got the guy from Milwaukee. He's a good young player. They got him in the Yelich trade. And they put him in there right away and let him do his thing. But, there can be nobody in the ballpark. I don't see how you can't have the Marlins at the last place team. Now, I think they'd be feisty. Young players got something to prove. Manager's going to be patient. They're not in that in-between stage. They're all young. They do have a couple of, veterans, the catcher and the board at first base, but I don't know how you put the Marlins any higher than 65. So the bottom seven to me would be White Sox. I put the Tigers at 25. And then, the Braves 26, Kansas City, the Reds are in there, and, of course, the last two. So those are your seven worst teams in the sport. The seven best teams I gave you, and then there's those in-between teams, which are sent around a little later on. That's where we begin in the 4 o'clock hour. We continue on Mad Dog Online.